We are doing the last one card community tarot draw for the year, which will be followed at 10 by the last three card Patreon for the year of 2025. If you are curious about what's coming for 2026, I do have the 2026 reading up from last year. I mean, not from last year, but from October. Wow, it already seems like last year. Wow, since 2020, it's been decades. So, hi, good morning. I may pour myself another cup of coffee because I found a way to get coffee up in my room. And I have the card for today because I always pregame it. So, what I have today is Eight of Wind, Power Shield. So, in the Coleman Smith deck, this is the Eight of Swords, where you see a woman blindfolded and bound with the swords lined up behind her. It does give kind of very firing squad energy, except that none of the swords are actually present in front of her. None of them are in her, like you get in the Ten of Swords. And so what it is the implication of there are things protecting you from things you don't know. So when I'm seeing Power Shield, where you see the swords are kind of lined up, it's a pathway. This is where the struggles have brought you. And I'm looking because one of the reasons I really like Tarot of the Spirit is it will give astrological keys as well, especially since like today's one of those days where I know it's Monday. I have no idea what the moon sign is in. And I vaguely know that the sun sign is Sagittarius just from being around this for years. But I'm seeing this as Jupiter and Gemini energy. Like there's like a teeny tiny thing on the cards that you can see where the artists put in those astrological keys. So Jupiter and Gemini makes sense in swords. It is an air sign. It is a lot about communication and interaction. And I would say with the Jupiter, it would be almost like intelligence work. Do your reconnaissance on next year. Find out what's going to impact you. So again, I'm living in a country where it doesn't seem so much like we have law enforcement as we have a relay wheel right now. And so that's been making life interesting in a bad way for a lot of people. But there is still room to get ahead of things to find out how policies are going to affect you and your communities. And rather than do the what am I going to do, just make a plan to end run it somehow. And that may involve actually calling your neighbors or inviting them over for a potluck and saying, hey, here's what's going to hit us next year. Here's how the property taxes are going to hit us next year. What can we do cooperatively to make sure that it works for us instead of against us? Again, malicious compliance is an art form that I encourage, but it is also okay, so certain things are being overly governed, and that means other things are being totally ignored. So, like I said before, what's being ignored that you can get involved with? What's being ignored that you can pick up on? So, hi, I am seeing a couple of new people joining me. Welcome. And if you're not familiar with me, I'm Diana Rachel. I'm the voice behind The Spirited Witch, Practical Living for Spooky People. And I am a full service spirit worker and tarot reader. I do one-on-ones. I do offer tarot forecast for 2026 that I'm going to be running through the end of January. That is on a special rate from my usual. That can be done via Zoom or email. And yes, I read very effectively in person or distance. And we were talking today about, I use Tarot of the Spirit for most of my client and public facing tarot work. For my personal work, I usually use the Urban Tarot because I'm a city priest. But for this one, I was looking at Eight of Wind, which would be Eight of Swords, no Coleman Smith Tarot. And there are nuances and differences between the cards, but I'm looking at what the general advice to the community is for preparing for next year. And I mean, next year's in a few days, but you get the idea. I think of next year as kind of this sort of liminal thing that sometimes starts in January, but not necessarily on January, if that makes sense. So when we were looking at this one in the Coleman Smith, it's a woman blindfolded with the swords behind her. You can't quite tell if she's up in the firing squad or if she just thinks she's in danger. And this one, especially the triangle, the protection, and I was showing how this particular deck, one of the reasons I'm very fond of it is they put astrological keys in most of the cards. So this is Jupiter and Gemini energy. This is do your reconnaissance, do your intelligence work. Find out what people don't want you to know so you can prepare for how it's going to impact you. When you can, one of the New Year's resolutions I suggested based on the 2026 tarot forecast I did October 30th is I suggested that people make a New Year's resolution of simply getting to know their neighbors, getting to know their neighbors, the names of their children, the names of their pets, who's there, and possibly finding something in common. And it can be anything as minor as like one of the silliest controversies in the city that I'm living in is whether people should voluntarily clean the storm drains or wait for the city to do it. You're still part of the city government. Yes, you pay taxes, but in the US, part of the Democratic Republic is you are the government, which means that you can be empowered to clean the storm drains. In places like New Orleans, people have just kind of decided to start mowing the lawns of the parks themselves so their kids can use them because of budget cuts. So there is a certain amount of overcoming that, no, we don't do that, or no, someone else does that, to go and get involved and to do it for the public good. So another day-to-day example of this is it's really easy to break up a traffic jam, but it does not easy to break one up in a way that benefits you directly. So there have been times, especially because Michigan has, it has basically winter and construction season. And right now we're transitioning between winter and construction season, which is making life here interesting. But one of the things that I was showing my son how to do one time is we were stuck in a traffic jam and I had Google Maps up with the roads with the red, you see the red, yellow, and then the clear or the green. And I explained to him, I was like, watch the map. I'm going to give a lot of distance. It is going to take us longer, but watch the map behind me as I do this. And so he was watching it slowly turn green. And I explained that we're not going to benefit from this, but everyone else behind, because traffic works on wave dynamics, I am breaking up the wave that was adding to the traffic jam and the repeated behavior so the people behind me benefited. And shifting to that thinking of, okay, I can do something that is beneficial to strangers and it's okay. And getting out of the deciding whether or not the strangers deserve to have a slightly easier day. I just have to trust karma or whatever powers that be monitor that stuff for me so that I can do something that is good for everybody. And that is part of what the protection part of this is. It also is looking at personal protection, finding out what laws are going to change, finding out what policies are going to change, checking your warranties, and seeing what's going to impact you. So do your recon on your own year, do your recon on your neighbors in your neighborhood, get to know each other, find a way to talk about sharing resources in a healthy way. And again, you don't have to be best friends to do this. You don't have to lend them your lawnmower if you don't want to. And if you don't have one, hey, you don't have to worry about mowing a lawn usually. So, but get that connection back, get that little bit of offline humanity back. And our protection right now, like the phrase I am hearing is power to the people. So I'm hearing those particular cultural ancestors right now. And I'm seeing images of marching and signs in the protests, but I'm also seeing people staying behind and watching their neighborhoods, watching their neighbors' homes, making sure things are safe while the other people are out doing the more public visual stuff. So again, it is shifting our thinking to I'm going to do a good thing and not worry about the benefit to myself. This isn't the same thing as being self-sacrificing or giving up something you need. This is just about a small thing you can do that costs you nothing, that may benefit people you don't like, but will also benefit people you do. And there seems to be a collective power shift by doing that, by taking that attitude, even in the smallest of ways. So that's what I've got. If anybody else has anything to contribute, or if you pulled your own cards or runes during this, feel free to speak up. I did make sure there's a little extra time because I know we've been starting to get a little bit chattier. But again, I know this is that, you're awake. A lot of you may or may not be off work or working from home. And a lot of you probably are full of cheese and slightly confused. And I envy you that full of cheese part. So I'll give you a moment if you have any questions. Also, again, I do have readings available. I have been having weird issues with my booking system. So if you try to book me, don't be afraid to DM me to arrange something. I do offer tarot and other styles of spiritual consultation via Zoom and email right now. If you're in the Kalamazoo area, I can work something out in person. And I do also have buy now, pay later services for people that feel they need assistance with a spiritual crisis, but have to measure it out. And I've been doing this for 30 years. I feel like I've gotten kind of good at it. And I'm very good at making sure that my clients walk away with an action plan because tarot's only as good as the information is usable. If it's just this is how everybody feels without any action, I'm not really sure why we did the divination in the first place. I mean, if you can torture some flower with he loves me not if you need to, but here's what's really going on behind the scenes stuff, that can be helpful, especially if you're using tarot to write your own love story, which is going to be something I'm looking at in February. Also, for those interested, I do have a Patreon. It is still very much in development because it's kind of a catch-all for all of the things that I teach. So my big project that I'm trying to get done for 2026 is making sure I have my magical modalities class, which is baseline psychic training, including things I feel got missed a lot when I was coming up that are still getting missed, including grounding techniques, why the same grounding technique doesn't work for everybody, and ways to turn that psychic switch on and off in healthy ways. And yes, I do have adaptations for empaths because I have my own theories about empaths. I consider myself one, but I don't consider myself particularly special because I'm an empath. I just have to manage my energy differently. And so I teach some of those different management techniques based on training and experiments I've done with other empaths. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. It looks like y'all are just kind of in the quiet space today, and I respect that. Happy New Year. I will be talking to you all soon. And thank you so much for spending the time with me today. Stay magical, everyone.